Hello guys, it's L24 here, coming to you for the third freaking time because this freaking OBS software just messed up. I didn't put my Actually, I shouldn't blame the software. It's my fault technically because I didn't set up the freaking thing properly and it was just really really laggy and just really bad. The audio is bad as well, unfortunately, because I don't have a mic. I should be getting a mic sometime this week, hopefully, so the audio should improve. So yeah, just bear with the crappy audio quality for now. So I thought it would be quite a good idea because it's weird because I'm explaining this for the third time, so it just seems really like disingenuous. Not disingenuous, but just it's just weird. So basically, I watched a Venus Theory video, and I think he mentioned because his video was about marketing yourself to like an audience. And I think in one of the suggestions that he did, that he had, he said that you should make like some sort of track breakdown maybe. And I thought, hey, it's a pretty good idea. Venus Theory is pretty good. He's like this. He's good at can't speak. He's the guy with like the really really sexy voice. The freaking the dude. Do you know like the dude from the old Spice commercials with like Terry Crews and stuff? It's like he has that sort of voice. I want him. I want to pay him to read me bedtime stories. Yeah, because his voice is that cool. Anyway, so I'm going off topic. So I'm gonna do a breakdown for my track, Dimensions. Yeah, Dimensions. So this track it's a relatively popular track actually. Popular for me anyway, because I only get like 70 plays. I got like how many plays was the highest? I think I got like 500, no, 200 or 300 plays on my SoundCloud. But in terms of the likes and the reception of the track, I'd say it's pretty good. So I thought that I would do like a breakdown of it because I think you guys might find it interesting, and I want to upload more on my YouTube channel. So let's get started, shall we? So where should we go first? Okay. So intro. Um, yeah. So let's go for the piano. It's a pretty nice melody, I think. Let's plug in. So I use Flex for this. I use two pianos, but really the two pianos are basically the same thing because they're modeled after the same Steinway piano thing. So I used Flex for this one. Um, yeah, it's a pretty good plugin. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty authentic. Um, so in terms of the processing, it's just yes, I know. I explained this like twice in my previous recordings as well, but yes, I use Sound Goodizer. Yes, kill me now, okay? I'm a normie, I know, but hear me out, okay? Pretty good plugin if you know how to use it correctly. I think it brings out some of the warmness in the sounds and stuff. It brings out some of the warmth in the piano. So if I just take it out, it sounds sort of a bit more dull in my opinion, a bit less volume. The reverb really does help as well to bring out the lusciousness of the piano, but I feel like the Sound Goodizer adds a bit more or oomph, I don't know how to pronounce it, to the sound. I think it sounds pretty good. So yeah, bit of parametric EQ to cut out the low end because low end is very 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 bad sometimes and it can interfere with the mix, especially if you have like a sub or something like I do in this song, and it can interfere with the sub and it'll just make things sound muddy and stuff. And I guess muddy means just when things are just cluttered in the 200 to like 300 hertz, this area. You don't want that. So I cut low end. Maybe I could have cut them a little bit more, but I don't know. So filter, because there's various parts within the song. I think in the beginning, nope. Okay, in the second part, there's a filter for the piano. So it goes, so I gradually filter it out during the breakdown. So there's that. So we just have some effects, drum hit, just a choir sound. I think this is a stock one. Yeah, it is. It's direct wave. Does the job. Okay, doesn't play. Did I just wait, why doesn't it play? Oh yeah, freaking wait. There we go. That should play. Does the job. It fills out the atmosphere, you know. Adds a bit of depth. Fills up fills up the mix pretty well, I'd say. So yeah, some ambiances. So I automated the volume to just add some sort of. I thought it just sounded really cool if I automated the volume, so it was up and down. Sorry for banging and stuff. Sorry. So it would go up and down, and it just adds a bit more tension. And I don't know, I just think it sounds cool. Let's go to the vocals. So it's quite interesting, the vocals actually, because there's quite a few things going on in here. So first off, let me just mute them. Let me just mute this, and then my computer's gonna legitimately cry if I play everything together. So
I'm so lost in another world, lost in another world. Can't breathe, can't breathe.
what's interesting about this is that I've done some sort of de-essing with the volume. So what I did was that in certain words in the vocals, I think world. So without the de-essing, it would be like world, and there's the sound is sort of really annoying. And I couldn't really get rid of it because I tried to use a de-esser. I think an Ozone one. I think Nectar Elements, but that just took up way too much CPU, and my computer started crying. And I don't like it when computers cry. Computer lives matter. Okay, so anyway, I don't like it. So I had to automate the volume where the T's are happening. So if I just mute this, then you'll hear what I mean, hopefully.
I'm so lost in another world.
Yeah, that's, and I just found that really irritating, and I think it'll get annoying for you guys as well. So I dot that down. So I automate the volume, so when the t's happen, they get lower, and then I bring the volume up after the t's happens. So also we have let's go to the processing for this as well. So doppelganger. So chorus, added some chorus in there. I added some chorus in here because sort of if you listen to like some Dion Timmer stuff, because I think in his songs he has some really cool sort of chorusy effects with the vocals, which I really like, and I thought that would work really well for this song, and it did. I added a lot of sort of depth, a lot of stereo, sort of sounded like the vocals were sort of futuristic, you know, sort of swimming within the mix. It's pretty cool. So without
I'm so lost in another world.
it's okay, but sort of it's not really exciting. But when we add the chorus,
I'm so lost in another world.
there we go. It's all spooky. Ooh. Oh, limiter, yes. Again, I use limiter. I'm poor. Okay, not poor, but I don't know. I just use stock plugins. Yeah, I use limiter. Kill me now. And I guess I used it to compress the vocals a little bit to just even them out, you know, so there's no peaks, and just basically cut out the low end so they don't interfere with the other stuff within the mix. I did some saturation, head crusher. It's pretty underrated. It's free. It's pretty good. You just throw it on an element and it adds some warmth to it. And Nova, this is another interesting thing. So this is sort of another type of de-essing or sort of dynamic EQing that I did. So within later on in the song, I'll sort of show you, but briefly, if I would want to sum it up, basically what I did was that there certain frequencies within the second drop of the with the vocals that stick out this too much. I think it's the mid frequencies, so like around here. I think you'll hear that later on, but what I did was that I automated the mix for this, so it's 100% during the second drop, so it will cut the volume down. As what's it called? Yeah. When it reaches a certain threshold, it's pretty cool EQ actually, and I think it did pretty well within the song. I'll talk about that later on. Where were we? So build up, just standard, some effects. So I did some repetition with the vocals, lost in another world, lost in another world, and then for here it's just breathe, 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 breathe. So it's just lots of repetition, building up hype. So if I just play this. Yeah, so the drum loop is just a sort of drum loop to sort of, again, to sort of tease the listener on what's coming, because obviously this is like a sort of drum and bass drum and bass track. So I thought a drum loop would work pretty well, and I think it did. So I threw that in there, and also added some uplifters. Oh, this is a pretty interesting thing as well. So I automated the master volume. So basically it's quieter during the breakdown and the sort of intro, because I want the drop to slap a bit harder and for more people to sort of groove to it. So by doing this sort of volume automation, so it's quieter in some parts and louder during the drop, it it makes it so like subconsciously the listener feel that like the drop will have more impact, which I think it works pretty well actually. I think the drop slams a bit harder because of that whole subconscious thing, because people perceive loudness as sort of better, and by doing this technique, it's like I'm tricking the listener into thinking that the drop slams harder than it is, even though there's not a lot going on within the drop. So I talk to you guys about that in a jiffy, or in a bit. Jiffy sounds kind of cringe, but yeah. So um, yeah, nothing much. So just some pitch automations, to add a bit more tension as well within the kicks. So let's go to the drop. This is the interesting part actually. So everything's interesting, I guess, in this song, if you want to talk about it technically. I play the drop. So, okay, so what should we talk about first? So, should we go for the drums? I think, yeah, sure, why not? So we'll go for the drums. So let's just play this pattern. So it's relatively simple, just a kick, I think, with some compression, because it took me quite a while to understand how to actually apply compression within a sound or within a mix. I didn't really know, because for years I've just been like dicking around with sliders, not knowing what I'm actually doing. But I actually sort of finally figured it out. It's sort of like the idea behind it. It's sort of, you're bringing down the sort of the overall dynamic range, so the loud and the quiet parts, and then you're making them even. So when you bring them up, it's just perceived a bit more louder, and it makes your drums slap a bit more. And I think, yeah, did pretty good. And the compression really brought out the drums, because I think the best feedback that I got from this track was that the drums are sort of really clean. And this is how I did it. Did it with a stock compressor and in EQ. For much, just boosting the sort of low end to give it more punch. And with the snare, it's just cutting out the low end because you don't really need it. Adding some head crusher to just make it a bit warm, and supercharger, which is another compressor, which is simpler in terms of the UI. It's a Native Instruments plugin. It's free. It's pretty cool. So drum loop, just a basic drum loop. I sent it to a reverb. I cannot speak, guys. I swear to God. reverb track. So just to add some more space, some hi-hats left and right. I like doing that. I think this is just a habit that I have. When I mix my hi-hats, I like to pan them left or right to just add some more space within the mix and just spread them out evenly. And those are the drums. So if you talk about the roll and bass, boom, 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 boom. Let's go. So it's a really simple sound actually. So what we have first is that we have a filter. It's basically the fundamental sound is basically just a filtered saw bass with quite a bit of unison, but with a little bit of detune or detune up to 52% to be specific, and phase to 52% on citrus. It's a very easy sound to make. You can basically make the sound in any synth if you just do the right post effects processing. So just go through the filters. So I use the analog filters, the analog filter, because I think it sounds pretty cool. It has that sort of analog feel to it, and I think I sort of wanted that with this track. I wanted it to sound a bit more analog, you know. So I think it worked pretty well. So I just put this filter all the way down, and I made a little filter envelope, like a right angle triangle that sloped a little bit. And that's how you make that sort of sound. It's sort of like it's like a dead mouse pluck basically, but for a bass. That's basically the fundamental of the sound. So there's that. And then in terms of processing, it's just Camel Crusher. I started using this plugin recently because I'd usually just use what's it called? The other one, what's it called? Yeah, Destructor. And I used the Harmar preset. But Camel Crusher works really well. It's pretty cool. I only started using this recently because I wanted to be that sort of edgy dude that doesn't use Camel Crusher because all of the cool kids use it, but I started using it. It sounds pretty good. OTT, everyone loves OTT, right? He's our favorite boy. So OTT, cool. Depth is relatively low because I don't really like putting my like OTT to like something like, I said like 3 times, now 4 times, to like 70 or 80% because it just sounds too artificial to me. Yeah, because I wanted it to sound a bit more sort of organic. Not organic, but I think when it's too much, it just, like, again, it just sounds really artificial and I don't like it. And the high end is just way too harsh. So I just put it to 35%. If you guys know more about OTT than I do, then you can probably explain exactly what the upwards and downwards compression means. Yeah, hit me up in the comment sections if you are Einsteins and you know that. If you have like 1,000 IQ and you can tell me what these knobs mean and why it would sound bad if I just crank the upwards compression like crazy. Okay, cool. So Head Crusher, again, pretty underrated plugin. Once again, I can't speak. So just threw it in, didn't really adjust the knobs, but automatically it just adds a bit more warmth to the sound. Because I think initially the sound was just sort of, it sounded sort of cool, but it just sounded really dull at the same time. But as soon as I threw this in, made all the difference. So if I just turn this off, sounds okay, right? Sounds pretty decent. But if I put it on, it's a subtle difference. You can't really hear it that much, but especially when you first put it on, it just makes quite a bit of difference, especially within the context of a mix and putting everything together. So yeah, so again, high pass filter, make room for the low end, sub bass. I did some pokey stuff to get rid of some resonating frequencies when you do this. And you listen to the resonating frequencies like that when you just knock them down. So sub, just standard sub bass. How did I mute that? So yeah, I know why, but so 3x oscillator. You don't really need much for a sub bass really. I just use I just cut out some of the high end because you really don't need it. Camel Crusher, add some distortion, make it more thick, you know, just makes the sub a bit less flat and more in your face, which I think it sort of really needs in this sort of D&B track. Also, what I did was I automated the cutoff for the filter, so just to make the pattern a bit more interesting. So it's like boom 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 boom. So if you just mute this as well. So yeah, so it's just a really short sort of cut off filter. So the cutoff will be 100% for like just a second, and I just thought it sounded cool, and it just added something to the track just to make it a bit less repetitive. We have I don't know why I called this bass because it's just a lead, like the same lead that you heard within the beginning of the track. So it's just this. Oh damn it! Why you not play? What you do? Wait. There we go. This is a freaking automation, man. It's so annoying. So yeah, so this sounds really simple as well. So I think this is just the default Citrus preset with a bit more tweaks with the filters. If you find a sound that fits the track, then you just might as well use it. I don't think it's just worth tweaking knobs just for the sake of doing so. It just doesn't, it just makes the whole sound design process, or just music production workflow, I should say, just a bit, it just makes it more cluttered and just more complicated if you just tweak stuff just for the sake of doing so. If it sounds good, then it sounds good. If it fits with the song, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. At the end of the day, and I don't think listeners would really care unless if you directly tell them. But even then, I don't think they should care because it's just if it fits with the song, it fits with the song. I felt that it matched the song, the Citrus patch, because I wanted to go for this sort of synthwave sound, and this patch it suited that purpose. So I left it as it is and just added some Camel Crusher, add some distortion. There's some pokey stuff with the EQ again, high pass. OTT, because who doesn't like OTT again? Sort of low depth of field. Not depth of field. And yeah, it's just that, and maybe a few tweaks within the settings of this preset, and then I got this sound, and it works. Because I wanted to go for that sort of minimal sort of what's it called, main room sort of drum and bass, like Sub Sound or Muzzy. I don't know why, because he got rid of like the last letter of his name, and he rebranded himself. I feel like that should be a meme. I feel like all producers should just take the last letter of their names and just be like, yeah, we're rebranding, guys. Yeah, I'm just gonna take the last letter of my name and just rebrand. It seems like a stupid meme to me, but whatever. Okay, let's continue. Yeah. So what else do we have? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And just the hook. Some people said it sounded this sound specifically, it sounded really cheesy. But I sort of like it. You barely notice it, but I guess it's nice that it's there because it fills out the space a little bit. Adds a bit more tension within the drop. This drop is like really, really simple because I guess with this sort of drum and bass, it's just sort of less is more. Because the more you sort of overcomplicate the track by just adding lots and lots and lots and lots of elements, it's got to sound pretty bad, and it'll just flush everything out, and it'll be really hard to mix. And I think the reason why this mix, at least to me and some other people, sounds sort of clean and why the drums sort of punch the way they do is just because there's not a whole lot going on within the track, and because of that, it just makes everything more easier to mix, and it's just more impactful altogether because everything's like in sync with each other, nothing's sort of out of place. and you don't have to worry about mixing a load of different elements with each other to try and make them fit in. Because trust me, guys, it's a massive, 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 massive pain in the ass to do that. Also, remember, guys, especially with sort of dance hall sort of drum and bass, where it just relies on sort of like a bass line and then some sort of variation within like certain melodies to sort of carry the song forward. Just keep it simple. That's basically what the whole rant basically boils down to. Just keep it simple, this sort of genre. So yeah, let's play this. The slight variations within the melody for this synthwave lead. Yeah, so these are just variations of the vocals, and we just chop them up in different ways to just keep the listener engaged. Because again, it's a sort of thing that pulls the listener within these sort of styles of D&B. At least I think. I'm not like a D&B expert or anything. It's just sort of adding variation here and there throughout the track. So this little piano melody. This is sort of strange because I used a free VST for this one called Keyzone Classic. Sort of did the same similar processing again, just Soundgoodizer, Kill Me, and EQ, pokey stuff to get rid of resonating frequencies. And yeah, and that's it. There's not really much going on. So in the thingy, it's just a filter. So it just filters out the piano, so it lets more frequencies in as the song progresses. I wanted like a smooth transition between the drop and the breakdown. I think that did a pretty good job by using the filter. So yeah, nothing much. Again, it's just the vocals, and then the de-essing again. I've already explained basically everything, the choir, everything. But yeah, there's this really cool plugin I probably should have used in this song as well, called Supermassive by Valhalla. It's just a really, really big reverb / delay. It sounds really good, and it's really good with like choir sounds like these. But yeah, nothing much to say. It's just basically the same as the first drop, but with just some very slight variations. So I use a different set of vocals within the build up. So it's Tonight Away. So yeah, it's just the same thing basically, but with just vocals and slight variations. So yeah, so let's get to the drop. So the drop, yeah, nothing much to talk about. So again, the only difference is that I get rid of the synthwave bass, but in favor of the vocal drops, because I think they sound really good. And again, that's sort of the thing that you need to sort of do with this sort of style of D&B. Add variation here and there with like different little elements like the vocals or the melody and stuff like that, and the bass line, just little variations here and there. And this is where the de-essing comes in as well. So again, master the volume automation to just make the drop slam a bit more, because again, what I talked about before, the whole psychological thing about things being louder, being perceived as better. But also, this is where the Nova thing comes in. So we go back to the vocals, you'll see that this is at 100% now. So if I were to turn these off, I think certain phrases would sound a bit louder and not that great. Hmm. It's interesting because I think, to me, when I made this, the mid frequencies really needed some compression because I thought they'll do. I thought that they sounded way too aggressive. But listening back, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But yeah, so I used some de-essing. So when night comes in, it will duck the sort of 500 hertz area and take out some of those frequencies. Because yeah, at the time I thought that those were too much, but now listening back, it doesn't sound that bad. Also, I automated the volume of the vocals slightly because I think I got feedback on this track, and then I think a couple of people pointed out that the volume was just a bit too loud for the vocals during the second drop, so I brought them down, and yeah, they sound pretty good. Because before they were too loud, I agree. But now they sound pretty clean, pretty balanced as all things should be. Again, just variation in terms of the vocals. So within this, I think every 8 bars, I sort of change things up. So just sort of the away part is just like an octave higher than the first away. So just keep, again, variation, subtle ways. Again, just variation. Oh god. So now my computer decides to freak out. So, oh yeah, I didn't talk about the strings, did I? So the strings, I think this is Flex 2. These strings, they take a ton of CPU, at least on my computer. They sound really good, but they take a ton of CPU. I guess that's sort of the price that I have to pay for like quality. But yeah, they sound really good. Image Line did a pretty good job with this, so congrats to them. And because it's round about the same really. So again, Kill Me, but I use it, and pokey stuff, and then letting some high end in to add to more crispiness, and just reverb and delay. Nothing special at all. I added like a little top line. I think this was originally supposed to be part of the drop, but I didn't like it. It just didn't really flow well. But so I added it within the outro. And I think it sounds pretty good to just add like a top line to make things so less repetitive. Basically, I can't speak once again. Takes a ton of CPU. My computer wants to kill me. It's crying right now. Did some panning stuff because I like panning. Sometimes it adds quite a cool space, cool feeling within the track when you do it. So I tend to pan stuff left and right. Sometimes I do it drastically like this, as you're about to hear. But yeah, panning's really cool. So keep that into consideration when you're making your own songs as well. Panning is a cool tool, and it could keep the listener engaged. It's pretty cool. Some panning again with the effects, various effects. I automated the volume of the drum hit, so it's just so it doesn't like bleed or whatever like throughout the track. I wanted it to end just there and there. And yeah, apart from that, that's pretty much it. There's not like a whole lot going on within this track actually. Like again, like I've said several times, it's really just less is more. You don't really need a whole lot going on with this sort of genre of D&B. Like especially if you listen to like Muzzy, or Muzz, I should say, because again, he just took one letter off, and now he's a new person. Anyway, so as I was saying, so Muzz, if you listen to some of his, especially the latest ones on Monster Cat, his his drops are sort of minimal. There's not like a whole lot going on there, but because like he's able to set the space and sort of add little elements here and there within the drop, they don't really sound repetitive or anything. They sound sort of really full, despite there not being like a whole lot going on. I know it sounds sort of contradictory, but I guess again, with like if you listen to his stuff, it's just less is more. I think that's a good principle to take when making music in general, to be honest. Because I think initially, when I first started out, I just used to pack a load of stuff within my mixes, and I just couldn't mix everything together, and it was just a massive, massive pain in the ass. That's why I really struggle with melodic dubstep, because it's just you have to mix the super soul chords together, and you have to take really good care with like how you mix them and like adding different elements in so they don't sound so it doesn't sound repetitive. And once you do all of that, sometimes like you just get a really, really messy mix. But sometimes with me, it's just really, really, really trial and error. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the track. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for listening to this video. I'm sorry because I'm really, really bad at explaining things, and I just stutter a lot, really, really, really badly. But I hope you guys sort of learned something from this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I thank you guys for supporting me. I'm trying to add some more content on this YouTube channel. So if you guys have any feedback for me, then hit me up in the comment section. Again, thank you guys for listening. This is L24. I guess I'm signing out. See ya.